Before we begin, a quick and important disclaimer. This video is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The content presented is not financial, legal, or investment advice. The world of private aviation involves significant financial commitments and complex contracts. Always conduct your own thorough research and consult with qualified financial and legal professionals before making any decisions. All figures and company details mentioned are based on publicly available information at the time of recording and are subject to change. You know the feeling. It's a gnawing dread that starts the night before your flight. You set 3 alarms, knowing that a single traffic jam on the way to LAX or JFK or O'Hare could be the difference between making your flight and staring at the departure board as your name is called for the final time. You arrive at the airport and the real fun begins. The security line snakes back and forth, a human labyrinth of shoeless, stressed-out travelers. You finally get through, redress yourself, and race to the gate, only to see the dreaded word, delayed. So you wait. You pay $15 for a stale sandwich and a bottle of water. You try to work, but the airport Wi-Fi is slower than dial-up, and you can't find a single outlet that isn't already being used. Finally, you board. You squeeze your carry-on into an overhead bin that's already overflowing, then contort your body into a seat that seems to have been designed for a child. For the next 4 hours, you're in a pressurized tube with 200 strangers, breathing recycled air, and praying the person in front of you doesn't recline. And that's if everything goes right. We haven't even talked about the cancellations, the missed connections, the lost luggage, the sheer soul-crushing exhaustion of it all. Now imagine a different reality. You wake up at a normal hour. You have a relaxed breakfast. An hour before your flight, you drive not to the chaotic main terminal, but to a small, quiet, private building on the other side of the airfield, an FBO or fixed base operator. There are no lines. There is no TSA agent yelling at you to take off your shoes. You're greeted by name, offered a coffee, and within minutes, you're walking across the tarmac and stepping onto a sleek, waiting jet. The leather seats are more comfortable than your couch at home. The cabin is quiet. 15 minutes after you arrive, the wheels are up. You're on your way, sipping a drink, connected to high-speed internet, getting real work done, or simply relaxing. You land not at a massive international hub, but at a smaller, more convenient regional airport, 5 minutes from your actual destination. Your car is waiting for you on the tarmac. You step off the plane and into your car. The entire process from arrival to departure is seamless, efficient, and utterly civilized. For most of us, this second scenario sounds like a fantasy. It's the world of billionaires, celebrities, and titans of industry. A world with a price tag so astronomical it's not even worth thinking about. But what if I told you that the velvet rope to this world is starting to fray? What if the barrier to entry isn't $100 million fortune, but something attainable? This isn't a fantasy. This is the world of private jet memberships, and it is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States built on one simple promise: giving you back your time. Over the next hour, we are going on a deep dive into this exclusive world. We're not just going to look at the glossy brochures and the slick marketing videos. We are going to pull back the curtain and answer the one question that really matters. Is a private jet membership actually worth the cost for American travelers? This video is your definitive guide. We will break down exactly how these programs work, from jet cards and memberships to fractional ownership. We will name the biggest players in the US market, companies like NetJets, FlexJet, Wheels Up, and VistaJet, and expose their different business models, their strengths, and their weaknesses. We will demystify the pricing, uncovering the real, all-in cost by digging into the initiation fees, the monthly dues, the hourly rates, the fuel surcharges, and all the hidden charges they don't put on the front page. More importantly, we're going to solve the value equation for you. We'll analyze who these programs are really for. Are you a business executive who needs to be in 3 different states in one day? Are you a family that wants to travel for vacations without the nightmare of commercial airports? Are you an entrepreneur whose time is literally money? We will create detailed traveler profiles and run the numbers, comparing the cost of flying private against first-class commercial tickets to find the precise break-even point. You will learn exactly how many hours you need to fly per year for a membership to even begin to make financial sense. And we'll explore the intangible benefits, the saved time, the increased productivity, the reduced stress, the sheer convenience, and help you put a dollar value on what is priceless. By the end of this presentation, you will not only understand this opaque industry, you will be able to confidently determine if it's a brilliant investment in your lifestyle and business, or a catastrophic waste of money. To truly understand the appeal, we first have to quantify the pain of the alternative. The true cost of flying commercial in the United States isn't the price of the ticket. That's just the entry fee. The real cost is measured in lost time, and time is the one asset you can never get back. Think about a typical 5-hour coast-to-coast flight, say from New York to Los Angeles. The flight itself is 5 hours, but your time commitment is so much more. You have to leave for the airport at least 3 hours before your flight to account for traffic and security. That's 8 hours. Upon landing at LAX, you have to deplane, navigate the terminal, wait for your checked bag. Let's be generous and call that another hour. Now we're at 9 hours. And that's the best-case scenario with no delays. A 5-hour flight has consumed an entire working day. Now let's run the same trip on a private jet. You fly out of a small airport like Teterboro in New Jersey and land at Van Nuys in California, much closer to the heart of LA. You arrive 15 minutes before your flight. The flight time is a bit shorter due to more direct routing and higher cruising altitudes, let's say 4.5 hours. Upon landing, your car is waiting. You are on the 405 freeway within 10 minutes of touchdown. Your total time commitment? A little under 5 hours. You've just been given back 4 hours of your life. 4 hours you can spend in a crucial meeting with your family, or just decompressing. If you're a high-earning professional, an executive, or a business owner, what is that 4 hours worth to you? $1,000? $5,000? More? If you do that trip twice a month, that's a minimum of 8 hours saved. That's a full workday every single month that you get back. Suddenly, the math starts to look a little different. This is the core value proposition of private aviation. It's not just a luxury, it's a time machine. It's a productivity tool of unparalleled power. The question is, what's the price for that power, and who can actually afford to wield it? Let's find out. To answer that, you have to understand that accessing the world of private aviation isn't a simple switch you flip. It's not a binary choice between flying commercial and owning a Gulfstream. Instead, think of it as a ladder. Each rung represents a different level of access, commitment, and cost. And for most people dipping their toes into this world for the first time, their journey begins on the very first rung. On-demand charter. On-demand charter is exactly what it sounds like. It's the Uber Black of the skies. You have a need right now to get from Teterboro, New Jersey to Miami, Florida. You don't have a membership. You don't own a plane. So you pick up the phone, call a charter broker and say, I need a jet for 4 people this Friday. That broker then scans a massive, real-time marketplace of thousands of aircraft owned by other corporations or private individuals, finds a plane that's available, and sends you a quote. If you like the price, you book it. It's simple, transactional, and requires zero upfront commitment. This is the entry point. The primary advantage is its pure, unadulterated flexibility. You want a tiny 4-seater for a quick hop from Los Angeles to Vegas? You can book that. Next month, you need a 14-seat heavy jet to take your entire executive team to a conference in Dallas? You can book that too. There are no membership fees, no buying a block of hours, no long-term contracts. You pay for what you use when you use it. For someone who only needs a private jet 2 or 3 times a year for very specific high-stakes trips, this can seem like the perfect solution. But this is where the fine print, the unwritten rules of the sky, begins to appear. The biggest drawback of on-demand charter is brutal price volatility. That marketplace the broker is scanning, it operates on pure supply and demand. So that flight from New Jersey to Miami on a random Tuesday in April might cost you $30,000. But try to book that same exact flight the Wednesday before Thanksgiving? The price could easily double. Heading to Augusta for the Masters, or to Aspen for Christmas. Forget about it. You're now in a bidding war against every other high-net-worth individual and corporation with the same idea. The price isn't just high, it becomes almost punitive. Then there's the issue of quality control. Because you're pulling from a vast, decentralized network of aircraft, the experience can be a complete roll of the dice. One flight, you might get a stunning 2-year-old jet with the latest avionics and a beautifully appointed cabin. The next, you could be on a 20-year-old aircraft with worn-out leather seats and a temperamental Wi-Fi system. For travelers paying a premium for a seamless luxury experience, that inconsistency is a massive point of friction. And finally, there's the dirty little secret of the charter world: deadhead costs. Let's say the jet you booked for your trip from New Jersey to Miami is currently based in Chicago. You, the customer, have to pay for that empty flight from Chicago to New Jersey just to come pick you up. It's called a repositioning leg. And after it drops you off in Miami, If it doesn't have another client booked, its owner wants it back at its home base in Chicago. Guess who pays for that empty flight back? You do. These empty leg or deadhead costs are almost always baked into your charter quote, often inflating the price by 30 to 50% or even more. Suddenly, that pay-as-you-go model doesn't seem so straightforward. The frustration with price volatility, inconsistent quality, and hidden fees is what pushes people to look for the next rung on the ladder. They're tired of rolling the dice. They want predictability. They want consistency. They want a guaranteed standard of service. And that is the promise of a jet card. A jet card is the private aviation industry's answer to the chaos of the on-demand market. Think of it less like Uber and more like a prepaid debit card for a specific high-end service. Instead of booking one trip at a time, you pre-purchase a block of flight hours, typically 25 hours, on a certain category of aircraft, a light jet, a mid-size jet, or a heavy jet. You're making a significant upfront investment, wiring a company like NetJets, FlexJet, or CenturyJet anywhere from $150,000 to over $500,000. In exchange for that massive upfront payment, you get something the charter market can never truly offer: certainty. The single most important benefit of a jet card is a fixed, guaranteed hourly rate. When you sign your contract, you lock in your price for the entire year. That $30,000 flight from Teterboro to Miami now costs the same on a random Tuesday in April as it does the day before Thanksgiving. The price is locked. The budget is predictable. For businesses or individuals who need to fly often, this is a game changer. It transforms a volatile, unpredictable expense into a manageable, line-item budget. The second major benefit is guaranteed availability. Most jet card programs guarantee you an aircraft with as little as 24 or 48 hours notice. There's no more scrambling, no more brokers telling you, "Sorry, nothing's available." You bought the hours. They are contractually obligated to provide the plane. This is an incredible tool for anyone whose schedule can change in an instant. And third, you get that consistency that was missing from the charter world. You're not flying on a random plane from a giant marketplace. You're flying on an aircraft that is owned, operated, or strictly vetted by the jet card company. The pilots, the maintenance standards, the age of the fleet, the amenities in the cabin, it's all standardized to a very high level. Every time you step on board, you know exactly what you're going to get. But of course, this rung of the ladder has its own set of trade-offs. The most obvious is the hefty upfront cost. You are parking a significant amount of capital with a company, money that could be invested elsewhere. And what if you don't use all your hours? While policies vary, many programs have expiration dates. Use it or lose it. There's also a reduction in flexibility compared to on-demand charter. You've typically bought your hours in a specific aircraft category. If you bought a 25-hour card for a light jet, perfect for 2 to 4 passengers on short trips, but you suddenly need to fly 8 people across the country, you can't just use your light jet hours. You'll have to pay an interchange fee to upgrade to a larger aircraft, often at a premium. And just like with commercial airlines, you have to watch the hidden fees. That fixed hourly rate you locked in? It often doesn't include the 7.5% federal excise tax. It doesn't include fuel surcharges, which can fluctuate wildly with the price of oil. It doesn't include catering, international fees, or a daily minimum flight time charge, which means that even if your flight from LA to Vegas is only 45 minutes, you might be billed for a full hour or more. So the jet card solves the biggest problems of charter, but it introduces a new level of financial commitment and a new set of rules to learn. It's perfect for the user who flies between 25 and 50 hours a year, and who values predictability and quality above all else. But what happens when 50 hours a year isn't enough? What happens when your travel needs become so frequent, so demanding, that you start to feel like you're basically renting an apartment when you really should be owning the building? That's when you start looking at the next rungs on the ladder, where the costs, the complexities, and the benefits all enter a completely different financial stratosphere. That's when you start to consider fractional ownership. Fractional ownership is a concept that fundamentally changed private aviation. It was pioneered and perfected by a company called NetJets, which is so dominant in the space that the brand is almost synonymous with the model itself, like Kleenex is for tissues. The idea is simple in theory, but incredibly complex in execution. Instead of buying a whole $10 million jet, you buy a share of it. You become a part owner. Think of it like this: you wouldn't buy an entire apartment building just to have a place to stay in New York City, but you might buy a condominium in that building. You own your specific unit, you pay HOA fees to maintain the lobby, the pool, and the security, and you get to use the amenities whenever you want. fractional jet ownership is the exact same principle, just at 40,000 feet. You're not just renting the plane anymore. You are an owner. The smallest share you can typically buy is a 1/16 share, which entitles you to 50 hours of flight time per year. From there, it goes up. A 1/8 share gets you 100 hours, a quarter share gets you 200 hours, and so on. When you buy your share, you are buying a piece of a specific aircraft, a real plane with a real tail number. But the magic of the system is that you don't just fly on your specific plane. You have access to the company's entire fleet of identical aircraft. If your plane is in California and you need a pickup in Florida, the company simply dispatches the closest identical jet to you. This logistical wizardry is what you're paying for. The undisputed giants in this arena are NetJets and FlexJet. NetJets, owned by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, which should tell you something about its financial stability and business model, is the 800-pound gorilla. They operate a fleet of over 800 aircraft, which is larger than most commercial airlines. FlexJet is the other major player, known for its premium service, newer aircraft, and a slightly different model that often assigns dedicated crews to a specific group of owners. So let's get down to the brass tacks. What does it actually cost to become a fractional owner? The price tag has 3 distinct parts, and you have to understand all 3 to see the full picture. First, there's the acquisition cost. This is the big, one-time payment to buy your share. This price depends entirely on the type of jet. For a popular light jet like the Embraer Phenom 300, a 1/16 share, our 50-hour entry point, will likely cost you somewhere between $700,000 and $900,000 up front. Want something bigger, like a mid-size Citation Latitude with more range and a stand-up cabin? You're looking at an acquisition cost closer to $1.5 to $1.8 million for that same 1/16 share. This is a serious capital investment. You are buying a tangible, albeit depreciating, asset. Second, there's the monthly management fee. This is your HOA fee. It doesn't matter if you fly 0 hours or all 50 hours in a given month. You pay this fee regardless. It covers all the fixed costs of aircraft ownership that you now share with the other owners: pilot salaries and training, hangar storage, insurance, and the administrative team managing the complex logistics. For that Phenom 300, this fee will be in the ballpark of $12,000 to $15,000 per month. For the Citation Latitude, expect something closer to $18,000 or $22,000 per month. That's potentially over $250,000 a year before you even step on a plane. Third and finally, there's the occupied hourly rate. This is the only part of the cost that you pay when you actually fly. It's like paying for gas and utilities in your condo. This rate covers all the variable costs: fuel, engine maintenance reserves, catering, landing fees, and crew travel expenses. For the Phenom 300, this rate might be around $4,000 per hour in the air. For the Citation Latitude, it could be closer to $6,500 per hour. And on top of this hourly rate, you also have to pay a 7.5% federal excise tax, plus a variable fuel surcharge that can add hundreds or even thousands of dollars to each flight. Let's put it all together to see the true cost. Let's say you buy a 1/16 share of that Phenom 300. Your upfront cost is, let's call it $800,000. Your monthly management fee is $14,000, which is $168,000 for the year. Then you fly your full 50 hours at an hourly rate of $4,000. That's another $200,000. So, in your first year, you've spent $800,000 to get in, plus $368,000 to operate. And that's before taxes and fuel surcharges. The more useful metric is the recurring annual cost. For those 50 hours of flying, you're paying $168,000 in management fees plus $200,000 in flight costs, for a total of $368,000. If you divide that by your 50 hours, your effective, all-in hourly cost is $7,360. That is the number you should compare to the $10,000 or $12,000 per hour you might pay for an on-demand charter for a similar jet. So yes, on a per-hour basis it can be cheaper than charter. But it only makes sense if you're flying enough to justify the massive upfront acquisition cost and the relentless monthly management fee. So why on earth would anyone do this? The benefits are significant, and they go far beyond a simple hourly rate comparison. The number one reason is availability. Fractional ownership programs offer guaranteed access to an aircraft with as little as 4 to 6 hours notice. For business leaders or individuals whose schedules change at a moment's notice, this is the entire ballgame. There's no calling around for quotes, no worrying if a charter operator has a plane available. You make a call and a plane appears. Period. They also guarantee a recovery aircraft if your plane has a mechanical issue, something that can ruin a trip with the charter operator. The second reason is consistency. When you fly charter, you might get a 10-year-old plane one day and a brand new one the next. The pilots are different, the service standards vary. With a fractional program like NetJets or FlexJet, every single jet of a certain type is configured identically. The pilots go through the same rigorous, industry-leading training. The service on board is standardized to an incredibly high level. You know exactly what you are going to get every single time. It removes all the variables. The third, and perhaps most powerful benefit is something called interchange. This is a massive advantage. Let's say you own a share in a Phenom 300, which is perfect for your typical 2-hour flights with 3 colleagues. But once a year, you need to fly your family of 7 from New York to California. Your Phenom 300 can't do that. With a fractional program, you can simply request a larger aircraft, like a long-range Gulfstream. The company will provide it, and they'll simply deduct hours from your account at a preset exchange rate. Maybe your one transcontinental flight uses up 10 of your Phenom 300 hours. This gives you access to an entire fleet of aircraft, from light jets to ultra-long-range global jets, all while only owning a piece of one. Of course, the drawbacks are just as significant. The primary one is the enormous capital outlay required to buy the share. That's money that could be invested elsewhere, and it's an investment in a depreciating asset. Just like a car, your jet share will be worth less in 5 years than it is today. The major companies offer guaranteed buyback programs at fair market value after a typical 5-year contract term, which mitigates some risk, but you are still likely to take a loss. The long-term commitment is another factor. You are typically locked into a 5-year contract. If your travel needs change, getting out can be complicated and costly. So, fractional ownership occupies a very specific niche. It's for the traveler who has completely outgrown the jet card and charter market. Someone who flies more than 50 hours a year, demands absolute consistency and guaranteed availability, and has the capital to invest in the asset. They value the predictability and fleet access more than they dislike the long-term commitment and management fees. This isn't just about renting a plane anymore. This is about integrating a private aviation solution directly into your business or your life, with the costs and benefits that come with being an owner. But what if even this level of ownership isn't enough? What if you fly 200, 300, or 400 hours a year, and you want total control over the asset, the crew, and the schedule? Well, that's when you climb to the very top of the pyramid. That's when you decide to buy the whole thing. This is the dream, isn't it? The absolute pinnacle of travel. It's not just a plane, it's your plane. Your tail number, your custom interior with the specific Italian leather you chose, your monogram on the cocktail napkins. Your pilots who know you by name and know you prefer to climb to 41,000 feet as quickly as possible. The plane is sitting in a hangar, fueled and ready 24/7/365, waiting for a single text from you. We're going to Aspen. And within 2 hours, you're in the air. This isn't just transportation. It's the ultimate expression of freedom and control. It's a time machine. It's a corner office in the sky. It's the final boss of luxury. But for every beautiful dream, there's a cold, hard, and terrifyingly expensive reality. And the reality of owning a private jet is a financial beast with an insatiable appetite. The moment you sign the papers to buy a jet, you haven't just bought an asset. You've bought a complex, highly regulated, multi-million-dollar international business. And you are the CEO. Let's start with the sticker price because that's the number everyone thinks about first. And it's enough to make your eyes water. At the entry level, you have very light jets like a Cirrus Vision jet or a Honda jet. These are fantastic machines, but they are still going to set you back anywhere from $3 to $7 million. Want to step up to a true light jet, like the best-selling Embraer Phenom 300, the workhorse of the charter industry? You're looking at $10 to $12 million new. Need a bit more room, a stand-up cabin and coast-to-coast range? Welcome to the mid-size category, with jets like the Cessna Citation Latitude or the Praetor 500. Now your entry ticket is $15 to $25 million. And if you want the big leagues, the globe-spanning, ultra-long-range heavy metal like a Bombardier Global 7500 or the legendary Gulfstream G650, prepare to write a check for $60, $70, even $80 million. For the price of one new G650, you could buy an entire island in the Caribbean, or a fleet of 100 Tesla Model S Plaids. But here's the secret that every jet owner knows, the one that keeps them up at night. The purchase price? That's the easy part. It's a one-time pain. The real killer, the thing that separates the merely rich from the truly astronomically wealthy, is the cost of keeping that $70 million machine alive. The carrying cost of a private jet is a financial vortex that pulls in money from every conceivable direction. Let's imagine you just bought a beautiful $20 million super mid-sized jet. You're ecstatic. Then the first round of bills arrives. These are your fixed costs. You pay them whether you fly 1 hour or 1,000 hours. First, where are you going to park this thing? You can't just leave it on the street. You need a hangar to protect its sensitive electronics and multi-million-dollar paint job from sun, snow, and hail. In a major metropolitan area like New York's Teterboro Airport or Van Nuys in Los Angeles, a private hangar can cost you $200,000 a year. Or more. That's a mortgage on a very nice house, just for your plane's garage. Next, your insurance broker calls. You need to insure a $20 million 500-mile-per-hour flying object. The liability alone is staggering. The annual insurance premium will likely be 1 to 2% of the hull value. On your new toy, that's $200,000 to $400,000 every single year. Another house payment gone. But your plane can't fly itself. You need a crew. At a minimum, you need 2 highly trained type-rated pilots, a captain and a first officer. These are not gig workers. They are elite professionals, and you are competing with major airlines for their talent. A good captain for a jet this size will command a salary of $250,000. The first officer may be $170,000. And you'll want a flight attendant for a cabin of this quality, so add another $80,000. We're at $500,000 in salaries, but we're not done. You have to pay for their benefits, their 401ks, and most importantly, their annual recurrent training. Every year, they have to go into a multi-million-dollar simulator for a week or 2 to maintain their certification. That's another $50,000 to $100,000 just for training. Your all-in cost for the 3 people needed to operate your jet? Easily $600,000 a year. Then come the subscriptions. A modern jet is a flying technology platform. The navigation databases that allow it to fly safely have to be updated constantly. That's a subscription. The satellite weather service? Subscription. The high-speed Wi-Fi that everyone expects? A very expensive subscription. All told, you're spending another $50,000 to $100,000 a year just on data. By now, your head is spinning. So you do what most owners do, you hire an aircraft management company to handle all of this for you. They'll manage the crew, schedule the maintenance, pay the bills, and navigate the labyrinth of FAA regulations. And for this service, they will charge you a management fee of $10,000 to $15,000 a month. That's another $180,000 a year. Let's add it up. Hangar insurance, crew, data management. You are easily spending $1.5 million a year, and your beautiful $20 million jet has not moved a single inch. It hasn't even started its engines. That's when the variable costs kick in, the price you pay for every single hour you are in the air. The number one variable cost is, of course, fuel. A jet like this will burn through 300 gallons of Jet A fuel every hour. And Jet A isn't priced like the gas at your local pump. With taxes and fees at major airports, you're often looking at $7, $8, or even $10 a gallon. So at $8 a gallon, you are burning through $2,400 worth of fuel every 60 minutes. A 4-hour flight from New York to LA just cost you nearly $10,000 in fuel alone. But the scariest variable cost is maintenance. Jet engines are some of the most complex machines ever built by humankind, and they have a finite lifespan. Every component is tracked, and every hour you fly is an hour closer to a mandatory multi-million-dollar overhaul. To avoid a single catastrophic bill, most owners enroll in what are called power-by-the-hour programs. You pay a set amount for every hour you fly, say $1,500, into a maintenance reserve fund. It's like prepaying for the inevitable. So on that New York to LA flight, you've spent $10,000 on fuel, and you've just added another $6,000 to your maintenance bill. We're at $16,000, and the plane hasn't even landed yet. When you do land, you get to pay landing fees, handling fees, and ramp fees to the local FBO, or fixed base operator. They charge you for using the runway, for parking the plane, for having a golf cart meet you. In a busy airport, these fees can easily be a few $1,000s. And don't forget, while you're at your business meeting, your crew needs to eat and sleep. You're paying for their hotel rooms, their Ubers, and their meals. So let's tally the real cost of that 4-hour flight. About $10,000 in fuel, $6,000 in maintenance reserves, maybe $2,000 in landing fees and crew costs, plus whatever you spent on the fancy catering. You just dropped nearly $20,000. That's $5,000 per hour. And that's on top of the $1.5 million you're already spending just to own the plane. There is a rule of thumb in the industry. Expect your annual operating budget to be at least 10% of the aircraft's purchase price. For your $20 million jet, that's $2 million a year. And that number assumes you fly a decent amount. The fewer hours you fly, the higher your cost per hour skyrockets, because those massive fixed costs get divided by a smaller number. And we haven't even talked about the biggest financial gut punch of all, depreciation. A private jet is not a fine watch or a piece of real estate. It is a piece of heavy machinery. And it loses value. Fast. In the first 5 years, it can lose 30 to 50% of its initial purchase price. Your $20 million asset could be worth just $10 million in a flash. It's a world of immense complexity, of staggering costs, and of constant headaches. It's worrying about an unexpected mechanical issue, an AOG or aircraft on ground event, that leaves you stranded in Omaha on the way to the most important meeting of your life. The dream of ultimate control suddenly becomes the nightmare of being at the mercy of a single specialized hydraulic part that needs to be flown in from another state. So if full ownership is a financial and logistical nightmare for almost everyone, why do people do it? And more importantly, is there a way to get the benefits of ownership without all the pain? That's where the story gets really interesting, because a handful of brilliant and frankly ruthless entrepreneurs saw this problem, and they invented a solution that would change private aviation forever. This new solution wasn't an incremental improvement. It was a complete paradigm shift. It was born from a simple yet profound question. What if you could get all the benefits of owning a private jet, but only pay for the part you actually use? The answer to that question was fractional ownership. And the company that perfected it, turning it from a wild idea into a multi-billion-dollar industry, was NetJets. The year is 1986. A former Goldman Sachs executive named Richard Santulli, a mathematician by trade, looks at the aviation industry. He doesn't see airplanes, he sees assets. He sees incredibly expensive, complex assets that are being used with staggering inefficiency. A typical private jet owner might fly 100 or 200 hours a year, but there are 8,760 hours in a year. For over 95% of the time, that $50 million machine is just sitting in a hangar burning money. It's a logistical and financial nightmare. Santulli's genius was to apply a concept from the world of mainframe computers to aviation. He thought, why should one company buy a whole mainframe when they only need a fraction of its processing power? Why not sell shares in the computer? He looked at a Gulfstream jet and saw the same thing. Why buy the whole jet when you only need 50 hours of flight time? So he created a model that, on the surface, looked like a timeshare for the sky, but in reality was infinitely more sophisticated. Here's how it worked. Instead of buying a whole jet, you buy a share. The smallest share is typically a 1/16th interest. This gives you the right to use the aircraft for 50 hours per year. You could buy a 1/8 share for 100 hours, a 1/4 share for 200 hours, and so on. The purchase is broken down into 3 distinct costs. First, the acquisition cost. You pay a one-time fee for your share of the aircraft, just like buying a piece of real estate. For a 1/16th share of a $10 million light jet, that might be around $625,000. Second, a fixed monthly management fee. This is the magic potion. This single fee covers all the headaches of ownership you never want to think about. Pilot salaries and training, insurance, hangar space, administrative staff, everything. It's your payment to make the entire problem disappear. And third, you pay an occupied hourly fee. This is a direct per-hour cost you only pay when you're actually in the air. It covers fuel, maintenance, catering, landing fees, and other operational expenses. Suddenly, the math started to make sense for hundreds, then thousands of wealthy individuals and corporations. For a fraction of the cost of whole ownership, you got something even better. You didn't just own a piece of one specific jet with a tail number. You owned a piece of an entire fleet. This was the killer feature. If your jet was in California and you needed a flight from New York to Miami, it didn't matter. NetJets would simply dispatch the closest identical aircraft to you. If your jet was down for maintenance, they'd send another. You were guaranteed an aircraft anywhere in the country, with as little as 4 to 6 hours notice. This was unheard of. It provided the consistency and reliability of ownership, with the on-demand flexibility of an Uber. And the fleet advantage didn't stop there. Let's say you owned a share in a small Citation XLS, perfect for quick 2-hour trips. But this weekend you need to fly your whole family from Chicago to Aspen. No problem. You could use your hours to fly on a larger Challenger 350 from the fleet, just paying the difference in the hourly rate. You had access to the right tool for every job, without having to own the entire toolbox. This model exploded. It solved the core problems of both ownership and charter. You had the guaranteed availability and pride of ownership, without the ridiculous overhead and logistical nightmares. You had the flexibility of charter, but with unparalleled consistency and safety standards, as every pilot and plane belonged to the same system. For the American executive, this was a weapon. It was the ability to compress time and geography. A factory visit in Ohio, a board meeting in Texas, and a dinner with an investor in Florida could now all happen in a single day. The return on investment wasn't just measured in comfort. It was measured in deals closed and opportunities seized. But even as fractional ownership was booming, the market realized there was another tier of customer. The person who flew too much for on-demand charter to be reliable, but not quite enough to justify the multi-year, multi-million-dollar commitment of a fractional share. What about the person who only needs 25 hours a year? For them, even a 1/16th share was overkill. This gap in the market gave birth to the next great innovation, the jet card. In 1997, a company called Sentient Jet looked at the fractional model and stripped it down to its absolute essence. They asked, what if we get rid of the share, the deed, the monthly management fees, and just sell the hours directly? What if we create the world's most exclusive debit card? The concept was brilliantly simple. A customer prepays for a block of 25 hours of flight time on a specific category of aircraft: light, midsize, or heavy. For example, you might pay $175,000 for a 25-hour card on a light jet. That breaks down to $7,000 per hour. That's it. One upfront payment. Your hourly rate is now locked in for the entire year. When you want to fly, you make a call. The hours are deducted from your account. There are no monthly bills, no maintenance discussions, no crew management. It was private aviation at its most transactional and predictable. The value proposition was crystal clear. First, simplicity. It was the easiest entry point into private aviation, period. You wire the money, you get your card, you fly. Second, predictability. This was huge for businesses and individuals who needed to budget their travel expenses. With on-demand charter, prices can surge wildly based on demand, location, or the day of the week. A flight to the Super Bowl could cost 3 times the normal rate. With a jet card, your rate was fixed. You knew exactly what a 3-hour flight would cost you in July, and it was the same as it would cost you on the day before Thanksgiving. This financial certainty was a massive advantage. Third, it was the perfect trial run. It allowed people to experience the private jet lifestyle and the benefits of a managed program without the long-term, asset-based commitment of fractional ownership. It was a way to date the private jet experience before you married it. Between fractional ownership and jet cards, the industry had created a beautiful, tiered system of access. It was a ladder. You could start with on-demand charter for a few flights a year, graduate to a 25-hour jet card as your needs grew, and eventually move into a fractional share once your flight hours consistently topped 50 or 100 hours a year. On paper, it was a revolution. A perfect system designed to provide the ultimate in convenience, consistency, and control for the modern American traveler. It seemed they had finally cracked the code, delivering all the upside of a private jet with none of the downside. But beneath the polished leather seats and the complimentary champagne, a new set of problems was brewing. The fine print in these new, complex agreements held secrets that could turn the dream of convenient travel into a financial nightmare. And the biggest secret of all? It wasn't about the plane, it was about the contract. The contract is where the dream meets reality, and often shatters. You see, the advertised hourly rate, that big shiny number they used to lure you in, is often just the starting point. It's the base price of a car before you add wheels, an engine, or seats. The real cost is buried in the definitions, the addendums, the clauses written in dense legalese that most people, understandably, skim over. Let's start with the most infamous hidden cost, one that blindsides new flyers traveling anywhere north of the Sun Belt between October and April: de-icing. Imagine you've bought a 25-hour jet card for your business. Your first big trip is in January, from Chicago to a conference in Denver. It's a cold morning, a little bit of frost on the wings. You board the plane, enjoy your coffee, and have a perfect, seamless flight. You've just saved hours of time, you feel productive, powerful. This is why you paid the big bucks. Then the invoice arrives. Tucked below your expected flight time deduction is a line item that makes you do a double take. De-icing services. $18,000. You think it's a typo. $1,800 maybe? No, $18,000. You call your representative confused, and they calmly explain that, per Section 11, subsection B of your agreement, all de-icing and anti-icing services are billed directly to the client. The cost depends on the size of the aircraft, the type of fluid used, and the airport's rates. You just flew a mid-sized jet, and it needed a lot of fluid. The charge is correct. In a single 15-minute spray down on the tarmac, you just spent the equivalent of 2 round-trip, first-class tickets to Europe. And here's the kicker. It's completely non-negotiable and unpredictable. You could fly the same route a week later and pay nothing. Or you could get hit with an even bigger bill. It's a game of meteorological roulette where the house always wins. But the surprises don't stop with the weather. Let's talk about the fuel. A huge selling point for jet cards is the fixed hourly rate. It's meant to protect you from market volatility. You lock in your price so you don't have to worry if the price of oil skyrockets. Except you do. Buried deep in that contract is a fuel surcharge clause. This clause states that if the price of jet fuel rises above a certain baseline price, a price set by the company, of course, they can add a surcharge to your fixed rate. Suddenly, your fixed $9,500 an hour rate is actually $9,500 plus a fuel surcharge of, say, $2,000 an hour. Your predictable cost is gone. And this isn't a small thing. In times of global instability, these surcharges can inflate your bill by 20, 30, even 40%. It turns your fixed-rate promise into a variable-rate nightmare, one where you have absolutely no control. It's like agreeing to buy gas at $3 a gallon, only to have the attendant tell you after your tank is full that, because of market conditions, there's an extra $1 per gallon convenience fee today. Now let's assume you've stomached the weather and the fuel costs. You bought the membership for the ultimate convenience. To fly whenever you want, wherever you want. So you decide to book a flight for your family to visit relatives for Thanksgiving. You try to book a flight for the Wednesday before the holiday. You're a member. You've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars up front. You expect priority access. Instead, you get an email back. That day is a peak travel day. And on peak days, 2 things happen. First, a premium applies. Your hourly rate will be 25% to 50% higher. Second, availability is not guaranteed. They might not have a plane for you at all. And if they do, the departure time might be 6 a.m. or 10 p.m., completely ruining your travel plans. The very promise of private aviation, avoiding the holiday travel chaos, evaporates. The system is designed to serve you, except on the exact days you need it most. Suddenly, you're paying a massive premium to be told that you might have to fly commercial anyway. But even on a normal non-holiday, perfect weather day, the clock is working against you. You book a short flight, say from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. Flight time is about 45 minutes. You figure you'll use 3/4 of an hour from your jet card. Simple math. But the bill shows you were charged for 1.5 hours. How? First, there's taxi time. The meter doesn't start when the wheels leave the ground. It starts when the engines turn on and the plane begins to move. At a busy airport like LAX, you could easily spend 15 to 20 minutes just taxiing from the private terminal to the runway. That time is billed at your full, multi-thousand-dollar hourly rate. Second, and more importantly, is the minimum flight segment rule. Nearly every jet card program has one. They will bill you for a minimum amount of time per flight, regardless of how short it is. For a light jet, that might be 1 hour. For a larger jet, it could be 2 hours. So your 45-minute flight, plus 15 minutes of taxi time, equals 1 hour of actual use. But because the contract specifies a 1.5-hour minimum, you pay for an extra 30 minutes of flying that never happened. This makes short-hop flights one of the most attractive use cases for private jets, incredibly inefficient from a cost perspective. And perhaps the most audacious of all the hidden fees is the one that has you paying for a flight you aren't even on, the positioning fee. Let's say you live in a smaller city like Omaha, Nebraska, and you want to fly to Naples, Florida. The jet card company you're with doesn't have a plane based in Omaha. The closest one is in Kansas City. So, to fulfill your flight, they have to first fly that empty plane from Kansas City to Omaha to pick you up. That empty flight is called a positioning leg, or a ferry flight. And guess who pays for it? You do. You'll see it on your invoice, a charge for 1.2 hours of positioning, on top of your actual flight time. You essentially just paid thousands of dollars to transport air. This is where the geographic reality of the United States clashes with the marketing promises. The companies advertise a national or even global service area, but their fleet is concentrated around major hubs like New York, Los Angeles, and South Florida. If you live outside those golden triangles, you are constantly at risk of paying exorbitant fees just to get a plane to your local airport. One by one, the pillars of the private jet dream begin to crumble under the weight of the fine print. The predictable cost is a myth. The fly anytime convenience has asterisks. The efficiency is eroded by billing rules you never knew existed. You realize you haven't bought into a simple all-inclusive club. You've entered into a complex financial agreement with a savvy aviation company whose primary goal, rightly so, is to maximize the profitability of their billion-dollar fleet. The contract isn't there to protect you. It's there to protect them. And as you start scrutinizing the bills, a more unsettling question begins to form. You're paying all these fees for a premium, consistent experience. But what are you actually flying in? The last plane you were on seemed a little older than the one before. The crew was from a different operator. You start to wonder, is the company you wrote the massive check to even the one operating these aircraft? You assumed you were buying access to a specific well-managed fleet. But the truth about the modern private jet industry is far more fragmented and far more opaque. You're not just dealing with contractual risk, you're dealing with operational risk. And that is a far more dangerous secret. So let's talk about that secret. Operational risk isn't some vague business term. It's the risk that the actual operation, the flight, the plane, the crew fails. It's the risk of a last-minute cancellation that ruins your daughter's birthday trip. It's the risk of getting a tired 20-year-old aircraft when you were promised a brand new jet. And in the most extreme cases, it's the risk that the safety standards of the plane you're stepping onto aren't what you were led to believe. To understand this, you have to understand the fundamental illusion that many private jet membership programs sell you. The illusion is that you are joining a single cohesive airline. You see the pictures on their website, a beautiful uniform fleet of jets, all with the same logo on the tail, flown by pilots in matching uniforms who work directly for that company. You believe you are buying access to that fleet. And for a select few very expensive programs, that is largely true. But for a huge swath of the industry, especially in the jet card and entry-level membership space, it is a carefully constructed fantasy. The reality of the U.S. private aviation market is that it's not one big entity. It's a massively fragmented ecosystem of over 2,000 individual Part 135 charter operators. A Part 135 certificate is the FAA license to operate on-demand charter flights. Some of these operators are huge with hundreds of planes, but many are tiny, family-run operations with just one or two jets based at a local airport. They are, essentially, the factories that produce the flights. Now, think of the membership company you're paying, the one with the slick app and the glossy marketing. They are the storefront. Your relationship is with them. They sell you the dream. But when you call to book a flight from Teterboro to Miami on a busy Friday, what happens behind the scenes is the critical part you never see. The membership company first looks to its own fleet, if it has one. This is often called their core or dedicated fleet. If a plane is available, great. You get the consistent product you paid for. But what if all their planes are booked? What if their closest jet is in Chicago and it's not economical to fly it empty all the way to New Jersey to pick you up? This happens constantly. So they move to phase 2. They become a broker. They go out to the open charter market, that ecosystem of 2,000 operators, and they look for a plane. They are now shopping for a substitute aircraft to fulfill the flight they are contractually obligated to provide you. And this is where the curtain is pulled back and operational risk comes roaring onto the stage. The membership company's number one priority is no longer giving you the best possible experience. Their priority is fulfilling the flight at the lowest possible cost to them, so they can protect their profit margin on the flight they already sold to you. Let's say you were promised a Citation Latitude. It's a fantastic, modern, flat-floor cabin jet. But there are no Latitudes available on the charter market that day for a reasonable price. Your provider finds a Learjet 60. It's a fine jet, but it's an older design. It has a trench down the middle of the aisle that you have to step over. The interior might be dated. The Wi-Fi might be slow or non-existent. But technically, it falls into the same mid-size cabin category. So that's what they book for you. The morning of your flight, you pull up to the FBO, excited for the Latitude experience you've seen in the brochures, and you're met with a completely different and frankly lesser aircraft. The brand you paid tens of thousands of dollars to is nowhere on the tail. The pilots work for a company you've never heard of. This isn't a bait and switch in a legal sense, because your contract has fine print allowing for substitute aircraft. But it sure feels like one. That's service risk. But it gets worse. Let's talk about reliability. That Learjet 60 they booked for you? It's owned by a small operator with only 2 planes. The night before your flight, that jet is flying another client from Boston to Washington, D.C. On landing, the pilot notices a maintenance issue, a small hydraulic leak. The operator's maintenance team is back at their home base in Ohio. They can't get a part or a mechanic to D.C. in time. So at 10 p.m. the night before your 8 a.m. departure, that operator calls your membership provider and cancels the flight. Now your provider is in a panic. They have to find another replacement jet, but it's for a flight leaving in less than 12 hours on a peak travel day. The prices on the charter market have skyrocketed. They might find one, but it could cost them double what they charged you. If they can't find a plane, or if they decide it's not worth the financial loss, they will simply call you and invoke the force majeure or mechanical issue clause in your contract and cancel your trip. Your big meeting is missed. Your vacation is ruined. And you're left stranded. That's reliability risk. Now for the one that really matters, safety. Your membership company will tell you they have rigorous safety standards. They'll say they only work with operators who are rated by third-party auditors like Argus or Wyvern. And the top-tier companies are very good about this. But let me ask you a question. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. The entire private jet system is strained to its absolute breaking point. Every available plane is flying. A member needs a flight, and the company is contractually obligated to provide it. The only available aircraft in the region is from an operator that meets the bare minimum safety requirements, but maybe has a spotty service history, or uses older planes, or has higher pilot turnover than average. Does the membership company stick to its highest principles and tell the client they can't fly? Or do they book the only available option to avoid a breach of contract and an angry high-net-worth client? This is the hidden stress test of the membership model. You are often flying with a complete stranger. You are putting your life and your family's life in the hands of a company you didn't choose, in a plane you didn't select, with pilots you've never met. The membership program acts as a shield, a single brand name that absorbs all these disparate operators under one umbrella. But that umbrella can hide a lot of variance in quality, reliability, and potentially safety culture. Imagine you booked a presidential suite at the Four Seasons. You pay the Four Seasons price, you expect the Four Seasons service. But when you arrive, the concierge says, "So sorry, we're overbooked. But don't worry, we've arranged a room for you down the street." They walk you over to a perfectly adequate, but entirely unremarkable 3-star airport hotel. The bed is clean, the water is hot, but it is absolutely not what you paid for. You didn't get the service, the amenities, the prestige, or the experience of the Four Seasons. That is what happens every single day in the private jet membership world. You are sold the Four Seasons, but on many of your flights, you are being flown by the equivalent of that 3-star hotel. It meets the basic requirements of getting you from A to B, but it lacks the soul, the consistency, and the rigorous operational oversight you thought you were buying into. You're paying a massive premium for a curated experience, but you're often receiving a brokered commodity. The fundamental problem is a misalignment of incentives. Your incentive is to get the best, safest, most reliable flight experience possible. The membership company's incentive, once they have your money, is to fulfill their obligation at the lowest possible cost. When they use their own fleet, those incentives are aligned. But when they go to the open market, those incentives diverge dramatically. And you, the passenger, are the one who bears all the risk. So the critical question you have to ask before signing any contract, before wiring hundreds of thousands of dollars, is this: how do I know what I'm actually buying? Am I buying access to a real dedicated fleet? Or am I just buying a very, very expensive debit card for the Wild West of the open charter market? How do you tell the difference between a true aviation company and a masterful marketing company that just acts as a middleman? Peeling back that layer of marketing is the single most important piece of due diligence you can do. And it's exactly what we're going to do next. So, what is the fundamental difference between a true aviation company and a masterful marketing company that just acts as a middleman? It all comes down to 2 words: operator and broker. Understanding this distinction isn't just industry jargon. It is the bedrock of your safety, your experience, and the value you get for your money. First, let's talk about the operator. An operator is the true aviation company. These are the people who actually own, manage, and fly the airplanes. The single most important credential an operator has is an FAA Part 135 Air Carrier Certificate. Think of this certificate as a license to practice medicine for an airline. It's not something you just buy. It's earned through a grueling, continuous process of scrutiny by the Federal Aviation Administration. To get and keep a Part 135 certificate, a company must prove it has rigorous FAA-approved programs for everything: pilot training and proficiency checks, aircraft maintenance schedules, drug and alcohol screening, operational control procedures, a safety management system. The list is exhaustive. When you fly with a Part 135 operator, you are flying on their certificate under their direct control with their pilots on their managed aircraft. There is a clear, unbroken chain of command and responsibility that leads directly from the pilot in the cockpit to the company's director of operations. The primary advantage here is control. The operator controls the asset, the jet. They control the crew. The pilots are their employees, trained to their standards. They control the maintenance. Their teams are responsible for every nut and bolt. This leads to a level of consistency that can be hard to replicate. When you call them, you're not talking to a salesperson. You're talking to someone who might be steps away from the hangar floor. Someone who understands the real-world logistics of weather, maintenance, and crew duty times. But this model has its limitations. A specific operator might only have a dozen aircraft, or maybe specialize in a certain size like light or mid-size jets. If you need a large cabin jet for a trip to Europe, but they only fly Phenom 300s domestically, they can't help you. If their entire fleet is booked for the Super Bowl weekend, you're out of luck. Their strength, direct control of their own assets, is also their weakness. Their assets are finite. Now let's look at the other side of the coin: the broker. A broker, in its purest form, does not own or operate a single aircraft. They hold no Part 135 certificate. They are the masterful marketing companies. They are expert matchmakers. Their product isn't flight time, it's access and convenience. They have a massive digital Rolodex of thousands of certified Part 135 operators all across the country and the world. When you call a broker and say, "I need a Gulfstream G550 from Teterboro to Van Nuys tomorrow at 8 a.m., they don't look out at their hangar. They get on the phones and query the charter marketplace. They find a certified operator who has that exact plane available, negotiate a price, and then present it to you. They are the ultimate personal travel agent for the private skies. The advantages here are immense. Flexibility, choice. A good broker can find you virtually any type of aircraft anywhere in the world, often with just a few hours' notice. They are not limited by a specific fleet. Their fleet is, in theory, the entire global charter market. A great broker also acts as your advocate. They know the industry. They know which operators have stellar reputations and which ones to avoid. They can leverage their volume of business to negotiate better pricing than you might get by calling an operator directly. They handle everything: the sourcing, the contracting, the catering, the ground transport. It's a seamless, high-touch service. But here is the critical multi-million-dollar question. If they don't own the planes or employ the pilots, who is actually responsible for your safety? The broker is a middleman. They have no direct operational control over your flight. When a mechanical issue pops up an hour before departure, they can't dispatch their own maintenance team. They are entirely at the mercy of the actual operator they hired for your trip. They can't force a pilot to fly if the crew member feels fatigued. Their influence ends where the operator's authority begins. This is where the marketing can become dangerously detached from reality. You might be sold a membership in an exclusive club with a slick app, celebrity photos, and promises of a flawless, uniform experience. But behind that curtain of branding, the company may simply be brokering your flight to the lowest bidder on the charter market that day. The jet that shows up could be from a top-tier operator with a pristine safety record. Or it could be from a more marginal operator with older aircraft and a less robust safety culture. To the marketing company, it's a fulfilled contract. To you, it's a world of difference at 41,000 feet. So how do you protect yourself? You have to ask the right questions. The single most powerful question you can ask any provider, whether they call themselves a jet card, a membership, or a charter service, is this: will you be the operator of my flight under your own Part 135 certificate? If the answer is a clear yes, you know you're dealing directly with an operator. If the answer is no, or if they get evasive and say, "We partner with a network of world-class operators," you know you're dealing with a broker. There's nothing inherently wrong with a broker. The best ones are worth their weight in gold. But you need to know that's the relationship. Your follow-up question must then be, who is the designated operator for this specific trip, and what are their safety ratings? To make things even more complex, the industry is now dominated by hybrid companies. These are large players that have their own core fleet of aircraft that they operate under their own certificate, but they also have a massive brokerage arm. They might own 100 jets, but sell services that require 500 jets worth of capacity on a peak weekend. So, they use their own planes first, and when those are full, they broker the overflow demand to other operators. This can be a great model, but it demands transparency. For any given flight, you need to know: am I flying on your aircraft today, or on a third-party aircraft that you chartered for me? The answer changes the entire dynamic of accountability. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you book a critical family trip to Aspen for the holidays through a flashy new jet club you saw on Instagram. The price is surprisingly competitive. The day of the flight, you get a call. The plane has a technical issue. The jet club, which is just a brokerage, starts scrambling. They're not aviation experts. They're a call center. They find another plane from another operator, but it's an older model, it's 2 hours away, and the cost is higher. Your seamless luxury experience has just turned into a stressful, uncertain negotiation, and you have no direct line to the people actually making the operational decisions. The masterful marketing has evaporated, leaving you with the cold, hard reality of outsourced logistics. Now, contrast that with this scenario. You booked the same trip, but this time through a long-standing, reputable provider. Let's say it's a hybrid company. The same mechanical issue occurs, but this time the person on the phone is an operations specialist. They say, "Mr. Smith, the aircraft for your flight has a sensor issue that we're not comfortable flying with. The good news is we operate 3 of the same aircraft type from this airport. We're repositioning a sister ship from our hangar right now. Our own crew will be ready to go. We're looking at a 45-minute delay, and we'll have fresh coffee waiting for you at the FBO." Do you see the difference? In one scenario, a problem creates chaos. In the other, a problem triggers a solution. One is a sales company trying to manage a crisis. The other is an aviation company executing a contingency plan. Ultimately, neither model is inherently good or bad. A world-class broker who only partners with the top 5% of operators can provide incredible value and an ironclad layer of safety vetting. And a small regional operator might offer impeccable service but lack the flexibility you need. The danger isn't the model. It's the opacity. It's the companies that use the language and imagery of being an operator, showing off gleaming jets they don't actually own, while acting purely as a middleman behind the scenes. Your mission, then, is to pull back that marketing curtain, to understand if you're buying a product directly from the manufacturer or from a reseller. Because knowing who holds the keys to the cockpit is the first and most important step in ensuring your investment in private travel is a sound one. Now that we know who is flying the plane, we need to talk about the plane itself. How do you verify its safety record? How do you know the crew is properly trained? There are independent third-party auditors that do nothing but this, and their ratings are the currency of trust in this industry. Not knowing what they are is like buying a car without ever looking at the crash test ratings. And that's exactly what we're breaking down next. So let's start with the 2 names you absolutely have to know: Argus and Wyvern. Think of them as the Moody's and Standard & Poor's of private aviation safety. They are independent third-party auditors who have created the industry's most respected and rigorous safety standards. When a private jet operator subjects themselves to one of these audits, they are voluntarily putting their entire operation under a microscope. Let's break down Argus first, as it's the most common one you'll see in the United States. Argus has a tiered rating system, and understanding the difference between the tiers is the first secret handshake of the informed private flyer. The levels are Gold, Gold Plus, and Platinum. The base level is Argus Gold. To get this, an operator provides Argus with their documentation, things like their operating certificates, insurance information, pilot background checks, and accident history. Argus verifies all of it. A gold rating is good. It means the operator has a solid, verifiable history and meets all the FAA requirements. But here's the key. It's largely a historical, backward-looking check. It confirms what has happened in the past. The next step up is Gold Plus. This is where things get more proactive. To achieve Gold Plus, an operator not only has to pass the gold-level historical check, but they also have to submit their operational manuals and procedures for a thorough review. This includes their Safety Management System, or SMS. An SMS is a formal company-wide program for managing safety risks. It's about creating a culture of safety, not just reacting to problems. So Gold Plus is a sign of a more mature, forward-thinking organization. But the absolute pinnacle, the rating that separates the best from the rest, is Argus Platinum. This is the one you should be looking for. To earn Platinum, an operator must do everything required for Gold and Gold Plus, and then they must undergo a grueling multi-day, on-site audit. Argus sends a team of auditors to the operator's headquarters. They don't just look at paperwork. They live and breathe the operation. They dig into maintenance records on the hangar floor. They interview pilots, dispatchers, and the director of maintenance. They scrutinize every single process, from how a plane is de-iced in a snowstorm to how pilot fatigue is managed on a cross-country flight. A Platinum rating isn't a snapshot. It's a full-length documentary on an operator's commitment to safety. It is the hardest rating to earn and the hardest to keep. Wyvern, the other major player, has a similar top-tier standard called the Wyvern Wingman. The process is just as demanding, requiring a comprehensive on-site audit and a proven functional safety management system. For our purposes, you can consider Argus Platinum and Wyvern Wingman to be the twin peaks of private aviation safety. An operator who has achieved either of these ratings is playing in the major leagues. So, how does this connect back to your membership? This is where the rubber meets the runway. When you sign a contract with a membership company, you are trusting them to select the aircraft for your trips. A high-quality, reputable membership program will have a non-negotiable standard. They will only source flights from operators who are, at a minimum, Argus Gold Plus or more likely, exclusively from the pool of Argus Platinum and Wyvern Wingman operators. This is their safety guarantee to you. A cheaper program, one that's cutting corners to offer that flashy low price, might not have this standard. They might use an operator that is only Argus Gold or worse, has no third-party rating at all. And you would never know the difference unless you ask the right question. Before every single flight, you should be asking your provider, who is the operator for this flight? And what is their current Argus or Wyvern rating? If they can't answer that instantly, it's a colossal red flag. But here's where we get to one of the most deceptive tricks in the entire industry, and I need you to listen closely to this. It's the difference between a rated broker and a rated operator. Remember, the membership company you're paying is almost always a broker. They don't own the planes. The operator is the company that actually owns, maintains, and flies the jet under their FAA Part 135 certificate. The safety rating that matters, the one with the on-site audits and the rigorous standards, belongs to the operator. However, brokers can get their own separate certification from Argus or Wyvern. This certification for brokers is a much simpler process. It basically just verifies that the broker is a legitimate business and that they have committed to using rated operators. It does not mean the broker themselves is safe, and it certainly doesn't guarantee that the specific plane you're about to board is from a Platinum-rated operator. You will see membership companies plaster Argus Certified Broker all over their website. They want you to see the Argus logo and assume that everything they do is top-tier safe. It's a marketing sleight of hand. It's like a wedding planner advertising that they are Michelin star certified, simply because they promise to book Michelin star caterers. The certification belongs to the caterer, not the planner. Don't fall for it. The only thing that matters is the safety rating of the tail number you are flying on. Ignoring this distinction is how people unknowingly wander into the most dangerous territory in private aviation: the gray market. The gray market is a polite term for illegal charter flights. Here's how it works. Legitimate charter flights, the ones your membership should be booking, operate under a strict set of FAA regulations known as Part 135. These rules dictate everything: higher minimums for pilot training and experience, more frequent and stringent maintenance schedules, and specific insurance requirements for carrying paying passengers. But there's another set of rules, Part 91, which governs private, non-commercial flights. This is for a corporation flying its own executives or an owner flying their own plane. The safety standards under Part 91 are significantly lower. The pilot might only need 500 hours of flight time instead of the 1,500 required for a Part 135 airline transport pilot. The maintenance checks are less frequent. The oversight is less intense. An illegal gray market charter happens when someone takes a Part 91 aircraft and illegally rents it out to the public, pretending it's a legitimate charter. It could be a jet owner trying to make some cash on the side, or a shady broker connecting them with unsuspecting customers at a deep discount. The price looks amazing, a fraction of a real charter, but the customer has no idea they are stepping onto a plane that isn't legally authorized or insured to carry them. They are flying with a crew that may not meet commercial experience standards, on a plane that may not meet commercial maintenance standards. This isn't a theoretical problem. The FAA actively investigates and prosecutes illegal charter operations because they are demonstrably more dangerous. A reputable membership program is your single greatest defense against this. They are legally bound to use only certified Part 135 operators. They vet the paperwork, they check the insurance, they confirm the safety ratings. They are your shield. Trying to save money with some too good to be true deal you found online is like playing Russian roulette at 40,000 feet. So now you understand the hidden architecture of safety. It's not just about the leather seats and the champagne. It's about Argus Platinum and Wyvern Wingman. It's about the crucial difference between a broker's marketing and an operator's reality. And it's about steering clear of the treacherous gray market. This knowledge alone is one of the most valuable assets you can have when evaluating whether a membership is worth the cost. Because if a program doesn't guarantee this level of safety, no price is low enough to justify the risk. You now have the keys to the kingdom of safety. You know the secret language and the questions to ask. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. How do you take this, combine it with the financial models we discussed, the different membership types, and the hidden fees to make a final definitive decision for your own life? How do you put it all together and run the numbers for your specific travel needs? In our final part, we're building the ultimate decision-making framework, a step-by-step checklist to help you finally answer the question: is a private jet membership truly worth it for you? All right, let's get straight to it. Grab a pen, open a spreadsheet, because this isn't about feelings, it's about facts. This is the framework. We'll call it the 4-pillar analysis. Price of time, pattern of travel, purpose of trip in pounds and dollars. Pillar 1. The price of your time. This is the absolute bedrock of the entire private aviation value proposition. Most people make a critical mistake here. They calculate their hourly rate based on their salary. That's wrong. It's not about what you earn per hour. It's about the opportunity cost of the hours you lose. So, step 1 is to calculate your real hourly value. If you're a business owner, what's the value of one more hour spent with a key client, designing a new product, or solving a critical problem? Could that hour generate $10,000? $100,000? That's your number. If you're using this for personal travel, what is the price of an extra evening with your family instead of being stuck in an airport hotel? What is the value of starting your vacation the moment you leave your house, not 6 stressful hours later? Assign a real hard dollar amount to that. Be honest and unsentimental. Now track a typical commercial trip. Not just the flight time. I mean from the second you leave your house to the second you arrive at your final destination. The drive to the airport. The 2 hours you're forced to be there early. The security line. The boarding process. The inevitable 30-minute taxi and wait on the tarmac. The deplaning. The baggage claim. The rental car line. The drive from the airport. A 2-hour commercial flight is never a 2-hour journey. It's a 6 to 8 hour ordeal. Let's say you lose 6 extra hours per round trip compared to a private flight. And let's say your real hourly value is a conservative $2,000. That's $12,000 of lost opportunity, productivity, or personal value right there. Suddenly, that $25,000 private flight doesn't look like a $25,000 expense. It looks like a $13,000 expense, because you've bought back $12,000 worth of your most valuable asset, your life. Do this calculation for your own trips. This single number might answer the entire question for you. Pillar 2. Your pattern of travel. This is about logistics. First, be brutally honest about your frequency. How many times did you fly in the last 12 months? Not how many you hoped to, but how many you actually did. If it's less than 50 hours a year, most full-fledged memberships are probably overkill. A jet card might be your sweet spot. If it's over 100 or 150 hours, fractional ownership might even start to make more sense. Next, map your routes. Are you flying from New York to Los Angeles? Miami to Chicago? Commercial airlines have those routes locked down with dozens of daily, non-stop options in premium cabins. The time-saving advantage of a private jet shrinks on these major trunk routes. But are you flying from a factory in Des Moines, Iowa, to a supplier in Greenville, South Carolina? That's a commercial travel nightmare. A 1 hour and 45-minute direct flight privately becomes a 7-hour, one-stop odyssey commercially. This is where private aviation isn't a luxury. It's a competitive weapon. The more your travel map looks like a web of non-hub cities, the more the scale tips toward a membership. And finally, what's your travel style? Are your trips planned months in advance? Or do you need to be in another city with 12 hours notice? The entire commercial airline system is built to penalize spontaneity. Last minute, first-class tickets can often cost as much as a chartered light jet. If your business or life demands flexibility, A membership with guaranteed availability is one of the few ways to truly achieve it. Pillar 3. The purpose of your trip. This moves beyond pure logistics and into the intangibles. Who are you flying with and why? If you're a solo traveler, the cost per seat is astronomical. But if you're flying a team of 4 executives to a critical negotiation, the math changes. For last-minute, first-class commercial tickets can easily approach $15,000 to $20,000. Now, the private jet that fits all of you lets you hold a confidential meeting in the air and gets you there and back in a single day starts to look like a strategic business decision, not an indulgence. Is privacy a factor? Can you afford for a competitor to see you meeting with a potential acquisition target in an airport lounge? Can you risk having a sensitive document on your laptop screen with a stranger sitting next to you? For many high-stakes deals, the secure, confidential cabin of a private jet is a non-negotiable part of the process. And what about the experience itself? For family travel, this is huge. Imagine bypassing the chaos of the terminal with small children. Imagine being able to bring your family pet in the cabin with you. This isn't just about comfort. It's about eliminating stress and reclaiming the joy of travel. For some, that peace of mind is worth more than any time value calculation. You are buying a better quality of life. Pillar 4, pounds and dollars. The final reality check. It's time to get real quotes. Don't look at the slick marketing brochures. Call 3 different providers that fit your travel profile. A top-tier jet card program, a leading membership program, and a respected on-demand charter broker. Give them your top 3 most frequent routes and ask for an all-in door-to-door cost estimate. And you must ask about the other fees. This is where people get burned. Ask about the federal excise tax. Is it included? What are the fuel surcharges and are they variable? What about taxi time? Are you built for the time the plane is moving on the ground? What are the peak day surcharges and blackout dates? What is the cost for de-icing in Aspen in January? Can be thousands of dollars. What's the catering policy? These hidden costs can add 20 to 30% to your hourly rate. Once you have a realistic, all-in annual cost estimate for a membership, compare it to your total commercial air travel spend from last year. And I mean total. Include the first-class tickets, the airport parking, the lounge memberships, the Wi-Fi fees, the overpriced airport meals, and the hotels you had to book because of inconvenient flight schedules. When you put the 2 true, all-in numbers side by side, the gap might be smaller than you think. So let's put it all together. Who is a private jet membership for? It's for the person whose time value calculation shows a clear and massive return on investment. They aren't spending more. They're investing to earn more. It's for the person whose travel patterns take them to places a commercial airline map forgot, turning impossible day trips into reality. It's for the person for whom privacy and efficiency are not perks, but essential tools for doing business or managing a complex life. And it's for the person who has done the math, understands the all-in cost, and sees it not as an expense, but as a fair price for buying back time, reducing friction, and enhancing their life. For everyone else? For the person who flies a few times a year between major cities, who can plan in advance, and for whom the numbers just don't add up? On-demand charter is your best friend. Flying first class is an incredibly efficient and comfortable option. There is zero shame in that. The goal isn't to fly private. The goal is to travel smarter. The final verdict is this. A private jet membership is not a status symbol you buy. It's a solution you arrive at. It's the answer to a very specific and demanding set of logistical problems. If you went through this framework and found yourself nodding along, if your numbers align and your travel patterns fit the mold, then it's not a question of if it's worth it. It's a question of how you ever managed without it. It becomes an indispensable tool, like a smartphone or a high-speed internet connection. But if the numbers don't work, they don't work. The smartest, wealthiest people in the world are not the ones who spend the most. They are the ones who get the most value for their money. And now, you have the exact framework to determine that value for yourself. The power is in making the informed choice, not in the choice itself. The ultimate luxury isn't owning the jet or the membership. It's owning the clarity to know, definitively, what is right for you.